Okay, this is Hassania continuing with a second reading. Um, we made it through chapter chapter 6, um, and now we're going to begin with chapter 7. A quick word of prayer. Father, thank you for the previous reading. Thank you, Father, for giving me um, the endurance, Father, the strength, the the desire to continue. Understanding. Please give me wisdom and understanding, Father. Lead me into all truth. And thank you, Father. So be it, and may it be so. Okay, so chapter 7. Okay, chapter 7. And Solomon built his own house for 13 years, and he completed his entire house. And he built the house of the forest of Lebanon. It was 100 amma long, and 50 amma wide, and 30 amma high, and 4 rows of cedar columns and cedar beams on the columns. And it was paneled with cedar above the beams that were on 45 columns, 15 to a row. And there were windows with narrowed frames in 3 rows, and window was opposite window 3 times, and all the doorways and doorposts had square frames, and window. Okay. And there were windows with narrow frames in 3 rows, and windows with was opposite window 3 times, and all the doors and doorposts had square frames, and the window was opposite window 3 times. Hmm. Okay, and he made the porch of the columns 50 amma long and 30 amma wide, and the porch was in front of them, and the columns and the roof was in front of them. And he made a hall for the throne, the hall of right ruling, where he ruled, and it was paneled with cedar from floor to floor. And the house where he was to dwell, the other courtyard within the hall, was of like workmanship. And Solomon made a house like this hall for Pharaoh's daughter, whom he had taken. And these were of precious stone hewn to size, sawed with a saw inside and out, from foundation to the coping, and also on the outside to the great courtyard. Okay. And the foundation of precious stone, large stones, stones of 10 amma and stones of 8 amma, and above were precious stones hewn to size in cedar wood. So the great courtyard all around had 3 rows of hewn stones. So the great courtyard all around had 3 rows of hewn stones, and a row of cedar beams, as was the inner courtyard of the house of Yah, and the porch of the house. And the sovereign Solomon sent and brought Hiram from Zor. He was the son of a widow from the tribe of Naphtali, and his father was a man of Zor, a bronze worker, and he was filled with wisdom and understanding and skill and working with all kinds of bronze art. So he came to sovereign Solomon and did all his work, and he cast 2 columns of bronze, each one 18 amma high, and a line of 12 amma measured the circumference of each. And he made 2 capitals of cast bronze to put on the tops of the columns. The height of one capital was 5 amma. The height of the other capital was 5 amma. A lattice network with wreaths of chainwork for the capitals which were on top of the columns, 7 chains for one capital and 7 for the other capital. And he made the columns in 2 rows of pomegranates above the network all around the cover, the capitals that were on top. And so he did for the other capital. And the capitals that were on the top of the columns of the hall were in the shape of lilies, 4 amma, and there were capitals above also on the two columns by the bulge, which was next to the network, and the pomegranates were 200 in rows on each of the capitals all around. And he put up the columns by the porch of the Heichal. Okay, and he put up the column on the right and called its name Yakin, and he put up the column on the left and called its name Boaz. And on the top of the columns was lily work. Thus the work of the columns was completed, and he made the sea of cast metal, 10 amma from one rim to the other, round all about, and 5 amma high, and a line of 30 amma measured around it. And below its rim were ornaments all around, 10 to an amma all the way around the sea. The ornaments were cast in 2 rows when it was cast. It stood on 12 oxen, 3 facing north, and 3 facing west, 3 facing south, and 3 facing east. Hmm. Okay, and the sea was put up upon them, and all their back parts were inward. Hmm. And it was a topha thick, and its rim was shaped like the rim of a cup, like a lily blossom. It held 2,000 baths, and he made 10 stands of bronze. Each stand was 4 amma long, and 4 amma wide, and 3 amma high. And this is how the stands were made. They had side panels, and the side panels were between frames. And on the side panels that were between the frames were lions, oxen, and cherubim, and the pedestal above on the frame. Below the lions and oxen were wreaths of beaten work, and each stand had 4 bronze wheels and axles of bronze, and its 4 feet had supports. Under the basin were cast supports beside each wreath, and its opening inside the crown at the top was 1 amma, and the opening was round, like the work of the pedestal, 1.5 amma. And also on the opening were engravings, but the side panels were square, not round, and the 4 wheels were under the side panels, and the axles of the wheels were joined to the stand, and the height of the wheels was 1.5 amma, and the wheels were made like chariot wheels. Their axle pins and their rims and their spokes and their hubs were all cast, and there were 4 supports at the 4 corners of each stand. Its supports were of the stand itself, and on the top of the stand, 1/2 amma in height, round all around. And on the top of the stand, its flanges and its side panels were of the same. And on the plates of its flanges and on its side panels, he engraved cherubim, lions, and palm trees, according to the clear space on each, with wreaths all around. He made the 10 stands like this. One of them were of one mode, one measure, and one shape. And he made 10 basins of bronze. Each basin contained 40 baths, and each basin was 4 amma, one basin on each of the 10 stands. And he put 5 stands on the right side of the house and 5 on the left side of the house. And he put the sea on the right side of the house to the east, facing the south. Mm. And Hiram made the pots and the shovels and the bowls. And Hiram completed during all the work that he was to do for the sovereign Solomon on the house of Yah. And 2 columns and the bow shaped capitals that were on top of the columns, and the 2 networks covering the 2 bow shaped capitals, which were on top of the columns, and the 400 pomegranates for the two networks, two rows of pomegranates for each network to cover the two bow shaped capitals that were on top of the columns, and the 10 stands and the two basins on the stands and the one sea, and 12 oxen under the sea, and the pots and the shovels and the bows and all these utensils which Hiram made for sovereign Solomon for the house of Yah were polished bronze. The sovereign had them cast in clay in the district of Yarden between Sukkoth and Zarethan. And Solomon left out all the utensils because they were many, nor was the weight of the bronze searched out. So Solomon made all the utensils for the house of Yah, the altar of gold, and the table of gold on which was the showbread, and the lampstands of refined gold, 5 on the right side and 5 on the left in front of the speaking place, with the flowers and the lamps and the snuffers of gold, and the basins and the snuffers of the bowls, and the ladles and the fire holders and refined holders of refined gold, and the hinges of gold, both for the doors of the inner house and the most kadesh place, and for the doors of the house of the Hekol. Thus all the work which sovereign Solomon had done for the house of Yah was completed, and Solomon brought in the kadesh items of his father Dawid, the silver and the gold and the utensils, and he put them in the treasuries of the house of Yah. Okay, chapter 8. Then Solomon assembled the elders of Yasharel and all the heads of the tribes, the chief fathers of the children of Yasharel, to sovereign Solomon and Jerusalem to bring up the ark of the covenant of Yah from the city of David, which is Zion. Uh, and all the men of Yasharel assembled to sovereign Solomon at the festival in the month of Athanim, which is the 7th month. And all the elders of Yasharel came, and the Kohen took up the ark and brought up the ark of Yah and the tent of appointment and all the Kodesh utensils that were in the tent. And the Kohanim and the Levites brought them up, and sovereign Solomon and all the congregation of Yasharel who had assembled with him were with him before the ark, slaughtering so many sheep and cattle that they could not be counted or numbered. And the Kohanim brought in the ark of the covenant of Yah to its place, into the speaking place of the house, to mm, my goodness. Mm, oh my goodness. Okay, in the speaking place of his house, to the most Kadesh place under the under uh, the wings of the cherubim. I'm sorry. For the cherubim spread two wings over the place of the ark, and the cherubim covered over the ark and its poles. And the poles extended so that the ends of the poles were seen from the Kadesh place in front of the speaking place, but they were not seen from outside, and they are there to this day. Huh. Amen. And the poles extended so that the ends of the poles were seen from the Kadesh place in front of the speaking place, but they were not seen from the outside, and they are there to this day. The poles are they talking about? There was not in the ark only the two tablets of stone which Moshe put there at Horeb, where Yah made a covenant with the children of Yasharel. Then they came out of the land of Mitzrayim. And it came to be, when the Kohanim came out of the Kadesh place, that the cloud filled the house of Yah, so that the Kohanim were unable to stand and perform the service because the cloud, for the esteem of Yah filled the house of Yah. And Solomon said, Yah has said he would dwell in the dense cloud. I have indeed built you an exalted house, an established place for you to dwell in forever. And the sovereign turned around and barak all the assembly of Yasharel, while all the assembly of Yasharel was standing. And he said, Barak be Yah, Elohim of Yasharel, who spoke with his mouth to my father Dawid, and with his hand has filled it, saying, Since the day I brought my people Yasharel out of Mitzrayim, I have chosen no city from any tribe of Yasharel in which to build a house for my name to be there, but I choose Dawid to be over my people Yasharel, and it was in the heart of my father Dawid to build a house for the name of Yah Elohim of Yasharel. But Yah said to my father Dawid, because it has been in your heart to build a house for my name, you did well that it was in your heart. Only you do not build the house, but your son, who is coming from your loins, he builds the house for my name. Now Yah has established his word, which he spoke, and I have been raised up instead of my father Dawid to sit on the throne of Yasharel, as Yah promised, and built a house for the name of Yah Elohim of Yasharel, and have appointed there a place for the ark. Sorry, hold on. Okay, wherein is the covenant of Yah which he made with our fathers when he brought them out of the land of Mitzrayim. And Solomon stood before the altar of Yah in front of all the assembly of Yasharel, and spread out his hands toward the Shamaim, and said, Yah Elohim of Yasharel, there is no Elohim in the Shamaim above or on earth below like you, guarding your covenant and kindness with your servants, who walk before you with all their heart. Who has guarded that which you promised your servant Dawid my father? Indeed, you have both spoken with your mouth and have filled it with your hand, as it is this day. And now, Yah Elohim of Yasharel, guard what you promised your servant Dawid my father, saying, There is not to cease a man of yours before me, sitting on the throne of Yasharel, only if your sons guard their way to walk before me as you have walked before me. And now, O Elohim of Yasharel, please let your word come true, which you have spoken to your servant Dawid my father. For it is true, Elohim dwells on the earth. See, the Shamaim and the Shamaim of the Shamaim are unable to contain you. How much less this house which I have built? Yet shall you turn to the prayer of your servant and his supplication, O Yah, my Elohim, and listen to the cry and the prayer which your servant is praying before you today. For your eyes to be open toward this house night and day, toward the place of which you said my name is there, to listen to the prayer which your servant makes toward this place. Then shall you hear the supplication of your servant and of your people, Yasharel, when they pray toward this place. When you hear in your dwelling place in the Shamaim, and shall you hear and forgive. Okay. If anyone sins against his neighbor, and he has lifted up an oath on him to cause him to swear, and comes and swears before your altar and this house, then hear in the Shamaim and act and rightly rule your servants, declaring the wicked wicked, bringing his way on his head, and declaring the righteous right by giving him according to his righteousness. When your people Yashar is smitten before an enemy, because they have sinned against you, and they shall turn back to you and confess your name, and pray and make supplication to you in this house, then hear and the Shamaim, and forgive the sin of your people Yasharel, and bring them back to the land which you gave to their fathers. When the Shamaim are shut up and there is no rain because they sin against you, when they pray toward this place and confess your name, and turn from their sin because you afflict them, then hear in the Shamaim and forgive the sin of your servants, your people Yasharel, for you teach them the good way in which they should walk, and shall give rain on your land which you have given to your people as an inheritance. When there is scarcity of food in the land, when there is pestilence, blight, mildew, locusts, grasshoppers, when their enemy distresses them in the land of their cities, any plague, any sickness, whatever prayer, whatever supplication by anyone of all your people, Yasharel, each knowing the plague of his own heart, and shall spread out his hands toward this house, then hear in the Shamaim, your dwelling place, and forgive and act and render unto every one according to all his ways, whose heart you know, because you alone know the hearts of all the sons of men, so that they revere you all the days that they live in the land which you gave to our fathers. Also concerning a foreigner who is not of your people, Yasharel, but has come from a far land for your name's sake, since they hear of your great name and your strength, your strong hand and your outstretched arm, and he shall come and pray toward this house here in the Shamaim, your dwelling place, and do according to all for which the foreigner calls to you, so that all peoples of the earth know your name and revere you, as do your people Yasharel, and know that this house which I have built is called by your name. When your people go out to battle against their enemy in the way that you send them, and they shall pray to Yah toward the city which you have chosen, and toward the house which I have built for your name. Then shall you hear in the Shamaim their prayer and their supplication, and maintain their cause. When they sin against you, for there is when they sin against you, for there is no one who does not sin, and you become enraged with them, and give them to the enemy, and they take them captive to the land of the enemy, far or near, and they shall turn back unto their heart in the land where they have been taken captive, and shall turn and make supplication to you in the land of those who took them captive, saying, we have sinned and acted wickedly, we have committed wickedness. And they shall turn back to you with all their heart and with all their being in the land of their enemies, who led them away captive, and shall pray to you toward their land which you gave to their fathers, the city which you have chosen, and the house which I have built for your name. Then shall you hear in the Shama in your dwelling place their prayer and their supplication, and maintain their cause, and forgive your people who have sinned against you in all their transgressions which they have transgressed against you, and give them compassion before those who took them captive, and they shall have compassion on them, for they are your people and your inheritance, whom you brought out of Mitzrayim, out of the iron furnace. Let your eyes be open to the supplication of your servant and the supplication of your people, Yasharel, to listen to them whenever they call to you. For you have separated them unto yourself for inheritance out of all the peoples of the earth, as you spoke by the hand of your servant Moshe, when you brought out our fathers out of Mitzrayim, O Adonai. And it came to be, when Solomon had ended praying all this prayer and supplication to Yah, that he rose up from before the altar of Yah, from kneeling on his knees with his hands spread up to the Shamain, and he stood and Barak all the assembly of Yasharel with a loud voice, saying, Barak be Yah, who has given rest to his people Yasharel, according to all that he promised. There has not failed one word of all his good word, which he promised through his servant Moshe. Yah, our Elohim, is with us, as he was with our fathers. He does not leave us nor forsake us, to incline our hearts to himself, to walk in all his ways, and to guard his commands, and his laws, and his right rulings, which he commanded our fathers. And let these words of mine, with which I have made supplication before Yah, be near Yah our Elohim day and night, to maintain the cause of his servant and the cause of his people Yasharel, the matter of each day in its day, so that all the peoples of the earth might know that Yah is Elohim, there is no one else. Let your heart therefore be perfect to Yah our Elohim, to walk in his laws and guard his commands, as at this day. And the sovereign and all Yasharel with him made slaughterings before Yah, and Solomon brought peace offerings, which he slaughtered to Yah, 22,000 bulls and 100 and 20,000 sheep. Thus the sovereign and all the children of Yasharel dedicated the house of Yah. On that day the sovereign Kadesh the middle of the courtyard that was in front of the house of Yah, for there he made burnt offerings and the grain offerings and the fat of the peace offerings, because the bronze altar that was before Yah was too small to contain the burnt offerings and the grain offerings and the fat of the peace offerings. And Solomon at that time observed the festival, and all Yasharel with him, a great assembly from the entrance of Hamath to the Wadi of Mitzrayim before Yah our Elohim 7 days and 7 days, 14 days. On the eighth day he sent the people away, and they baraked the sovereign and went to their tents rejoicing and glad of heart for all the goodness that Yah had done for his servant Dawid and for Yasharel his people. Chapter 9. I think I might be able to get through chapter 9, hopefully. Okay. Chapter 9. And it came to be when Solomon had finished building the house of Yah, um, and the house of the sovereign, and all the desire of Solomon, which he was pleased to do, that Yah appeared to Solomon the second time, and he, as he had appeared to him at Gabon. And Yah said to him, I have heard your prayer and your supplication that you have made before me. I have kadashed this house which you have built to put my name there forever, and my eyes and my heart shall always be there. And you, if you walk before me as your father Dawid walked, in integrity of heart and in uprightness to do according to all that I've commanded you, if you guard my laws and my right rulings, then I shall establish the throne of your reign over Yasharel forever, as I promised Dawid your father, saying, There is not there is not to cease a man of yours on the throne of Yasharel. If you at all turn back, you or your sons, from following me, and do not guard my commands, my laws which I have put before you, but shall go and serve other mighty ones, and bow yourselves to them, then I shall cut off Yasharel from the face of the land which I have given them, and send away from my presence this house which I have kadashed for my name. And Yasharel shall be a proverb and a mockery among all the peoples. And this house which has been exalted, everyone who passes by it shall be astonished and hiss and say, Why has Yah done this to this land and to this house? Then they shall say, Because they have forsaken Yah their Elohim, who brought their fathers out of the land of Mitzrayim, and they embrace other mighty ones and bow themselves to them and serve them. That is why Yah has brought all this evil on them. And it came to be at the end of 20 years that Solomon had built the two houses, the house of Yah and the house of the sovereign. Hiram, the sovereign of Zor, had supplied Solomon with cedar and cypress and gold, and much as he desired. Then sovereign Solomon gave Hiram 20 cities and the land of Gilead. And Hiram came to Zor to soar the to see the cities which Solomon had given him, but they were not right in his eyes. And he said, What are these cities you have given me, my brother? And he called them the land of Kabul, as they are to this day. And Hiram sent the sovereign 120 kickers of gold, and this is the purpose of the compulsory labor which sovereign Solomon raised to build the house of Yah and his own house, and Milo, and the wall of Jerusalem, and Hatzor, and Megiddo, and Gezer. Pharaoh, sovereign of Mitzrayim, had gone up and taken Gezer and burned it with fire, and had slain the Canaanites who dwelt in the city, and had given it as a payment for the bride to his daughter, Solomon's wife. And Solomon built Gezer and lower Beth Horon, and Baalath, and Tamar, and the wilderness, and the land of Yehuda. And all the storage cities that Solomon had, and the cities for his chariots, and cities for his cavalry, whatever Solomon desired to build in Jerusalem and Lebanon, and in the land of his rule. All the people who were left of, wait a minute. Okay, and whatever Solomon desired to build in Jerusalem and in Lebanon, and in all the land of his rule, And all the people who were left of the Amorites and the Hittites and the Perizzites and the Hivites and Jebusites, who were not of the children of Yasharel, their descendants who were left in the land after them, whom the children of Yasharel had not been able to destroy completely. From these Solomon raised compulsory labor as it is to this day. But Solomon did not make slaves of the children of Yasharel, because they were men of battle, and his servants, and his rulers, and his officers, and commanders of his chariots and his cavalry. These were the chiefs of the officials who were over the work of Solomon, 550, who ruled over the people who did the work. And the daughter of Pharaoh came up from the city of Dawid to her house that he built for her. Then he built Milo. And 3 times a year Solomon brought the burnt offerings and peace offerings on the altar which he had built for Yah, and he burned incense which with that which was before Yah, thus gave completeness to the house. And the sovereign Solomon built a fleet of ships at Etzion Geber, which is near Elath, the shore of the Sea of Reeds, in the land of Edom. And Hiram sent his servants with the fleet seamen who knew the sea to work with the servants of Solomon. And they went to Ophir and took 420 kikers of gold from there and brought it to sovereign Solomon. Okay, so thank you for joining me today. We have reached um, chapter 10. So we read through all of chapter 9. And we will begin with chapter 10 tomorrow. Blessings, shalom, and blessings, shalom, and have a wonderful evening. Bye bye.